I'm a follower of Jesus. It's the most important thing in my life. The most healing, healthy thing for the human brain is a belief in God and prayer. Hi, I'm Loyd, and welcome to the Spiritual Laws of Nature. And today we're talking about something that I maybe in 30 years of reading scientific studies have never read of any other thing where the studies are so one-sided, virtually 100%, as far as the thing that we can do or not do in our life. But about this, that is absolutely true. What am I talking about? Instant versus delayed gratification. And this is a big issue in Scripture, and I'll go to some of those scriptures in a minute. But think 1 Corinthians 13, the essay on love, and think patience. And then we'll come back to that. Okay. I've been reading scientific studies for about 35 years, really rabidly for the last 20, okay? And virtually every study I've ever seen, and I know it's hundreds of them, on instant versus delayed gratification, has a stark contrast to the outcome of the study will be that delayed gratification is negative to us, can harm us, usually leads to more wrong decisions. Delayed gratification is good for us, healthier, and leads to better outcomes virtually 100% of the time. I'll give you some examples. People who delay gratification instead of instant gratification, and the way they test that, some of the early tests were so simple, they would take kids and say, I'll give you one piece of candy now or two pieces of candy in 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, all right? And there's been about every variation of that you could ever imagine. I'll give you one of these or two later, or I'll give you three of these, or four later, or, every possible combination I bet they've done, because this has also been one of the most studied areas. But what they have found over the last 20 years I've been reading, people who delay gratification, they live longer, they're sick less. When they're sick for fewer days. They take less medicine. Their relationships are happier. They have less divorces and broken relationships. They make more money. They score higher on tests. They have more friends. The odds of them becoming convicted of a crime are far less. You name it. Okay, virtually anything like that you can name. Delayed gratification, good and leads to good outcome. Instant gratification, not so good and may lead to a negative outcome. Okay, this statement, which we're all familiar with, would seem to conflict with that. Now, this is not research. This is a wise old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. When I did a little research where this came from, I really believe it's talking about the opposite of that. In other words, this is not saying choose instant gratification. I think it's really saying don't ruin your life on ridiculous 1,000,000-to-1 shot gambles. Okay? I think this is really saying just be wise and prudent, not saying don't delay gratification. If anything, it may be saying to delay gratification, because the basis of it is don't make unwise decisions that end up negatively impacting your life. Okay? But in the scientific world, virtually every study, success, health, happiness, better relationships, more love, joy, peace, delayed gratification. anger, anxiety, unforgiveness, resentment, bitterness, sadness, depression, low self-worth, instant gratification. Okay? Let me give you a few reasons why, and then maybe something to think about for this week. First of all, I've got an example. When I was working full-time, hoping I had just gotten married, and I was speaking quite a bit, all right? And I decided I wanted a sharp-looking watch to wear when I was speaking. It was totally just a vanity thing, I think, as best I can remember. And we could not afford this. I think it cost like $150. And we were really, really poor then, okay? Like eating pinto beans and peanut butter every week, you know? But doggone it, I wanted it, all right? So I forced the situation, caused a big argument with me and Hope. I felt terrible about that for probably weeks, okay? Bought the watch, and every time I wore it, it was like this hot thing burning my hand almost, because my association with it was something I forced, that I felt in my heart I should not do, and that caused problems between me and Hope. And I felt caused her to respect me less even, okay? Well, later, a client that I had worked with where we had a really unbelievable successful outcome in appreciation, a very wealthy person, gave me this watch as a gift. Okay? This watch cost $150. It's worthless today because it's been broken for years. This watch costs thousands of dollars. Is an exact replica of the aviation watches made by the German manufacturing companies in World War I, World War II, etc. Very finely made by hand. And this watch means a lot to me, okay? And I love it. But this was the delayed gratification. This was the instant. This is cheap junk now. This is one of my most valued possessions. The difference is a result that feels good for 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, maybe a day, and then it's gone. And even a significant period of time after that's gone, it's replaced with negative feelings about it. Guilt, shame, anger at myself, which I had all of those, okay, right? Versus waiting for the best possible outcome that feels great and will the rest of my life, even if this quits working, okay? So, big difference in life typically between forcing an instant something that you want versus waiting for the best possible outcome in that area. Okay, let me give you 5 things that I think are a big deal about this. 5 points. Number 1, when you choose instant gratification, you are settling. You are saying, of all the possible outcomes of this situation, and maybe this is the perfect, best possible outcome, this is the worst. Typically, the instant gratification doesn't get you here, it gets you like here, okay? Waiting for the best possible outcome gets you here, okay? Well, it's just logic that long term, 5 years later, 10 years later, 20 years later, you're going to be so glad you waited to get this outcome with that instead of this. And people who do instant gratification tend to do it over and over and over and over and over, which means they may have a lifetime of, from here to here, these results or lower, and almost no results here. Where people who learn because it doesn't come natural. What comes natural is what I want when I want, instant gratification, all right? But when I learn and become disciplined to choose delayed and wait for the best possible outcome, then I've got a life full of these results or close to it. Man, those are two very different lives. They're very different looking and feeling lives, okay? So, first of all, you may be settling. Secondly, something I almost didn't bring up, but then I decided to. Most crimes are committed because of instant gratification and an unwillingness to wait, be patient, and work hard for the best possible outcome. Okay? So when you're acting in instant gratification, that is the same signal, that's the same inspiration that comes from the same place as committing crimes. Okay? And when you choose that, maybe kind of like committing a crime, if you believed you should have waited for the best possible, now you've punched your stress button, you have negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative chemicals, okay? And even though you didn't commit a crime, you were dishonest with yourself, you did not choose the best outcome for yourself, violated your conscience, went against the vibe, however you want to say it, all right? You've just punched your failure switch that's going to be on for 15 minutes, a week. Who knows? Maybe depends on how big that thing that you did the instant gratification on is. Okay. The third thing is that we've already learned that there's only one thing on planet Earth that we know of from studies that will cause all of the positive chemicals to be turned on full blast and all of the negative chemicals to be turned on full blast. And that is to imagine doing something that you believe is wrong for you, that violates your conscience, that goes against the vibe, whatever is a sin for you. Okay? So I have very few times in my life just immediately chosen instant gratification. Usually I weigh it at least a little bit, okay? I can get this right now, or I can wait for, all right, there's usually at least a little bit. Well, when I'm imagining doing the instant gratification thing, if I believe that is not the best choice for me, and you virtually always do, you know that waiting for that best possible outcome usually works out better and is probably better for all concerned. So if I go against that, I punch my stress button. And I've got all the negatives, just as if I had committed a crime, but worse, because now I've got all the chemicals, negative and positive. And that is like a heroin feeling almost, and usually leads to addiction. So imagining that and then doing it and feeling that tidal wave rush, which sounds positive, but it's not, it's a big negative, typically leads to becoming addicted to instant gratification to cause that rush over and over and over. A lot of times that's unconscious. But that's why you keep doing it, because of that rush. And then the last one, and to me the most important, is the biblical reason. Let me read you scripture here. This is Proverbs 13, verse 12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, all right? So if you deny instant gratification, this thing's right here and I could have it right now. Yeah, it makes you feel kind of bad inside. Oh, shoot, I really would have liked that right now. But the end of the statement, but desire fulfilled, waiting for the best option, is a tree of life. So it compares instant versus delayed gratification to hope deferred makes you feel kind of sick inside, but one time for a few minutes and then it's gone. Delayed gratification, desire fulfilled long term, is a tree of life. Well, that means it keeps producing positive. It's not just a one-time event. Me choosing that is going to keep producing positive in my life and make me more and more positive in all areas of my life. And then, of course, the biggest one, at least for me, 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient. What's the opposite of patience? The instant gratification. Plain and simple. All right? The opposite of patience is anger and any emotion in the anger family. Irritation, frustration, resentment, bitterness, overwhelm. There's a whole bunch of them. Look them up on Google. There's way more than you think. Experiencing anything in that family, that anger family, tells you have a wrong goal. Okay? And that wrong goal is spiking your stress in your brain and nervous system for as long as you have that wrong goal. What's the wrong goal? The instant gratification that you're thinking about. So as long as you think about that, and maybe even for a good while afterward, because you created this big memory, because memories are cataloged in the brain, at least negative ones, fear-based ones, based on how much adrenaline was released. The more adrenaline released, the more that memory is protected and prioritized, okay? Well, when you create this rush where all chemicals are released at once, man, those are highly prioritized in your heart, okay? So typically, that's going to lead to doing it again and again and again to get that rush over and over again. But if you choose those things, it means you've got a wrong goal. If you do that consistently and at times when you believe you should wait for the best possible outcome, you have a wrong goal. The wrong goal is any goal that depends solely on your willpower or is a physical or external circumstance. And I'm not going to go into all that. We've talked about it in all the past stuff. But the research conclusively says the instant you have that kind of goal, it spikes your stress. Okay? Every time. One where you're depending on your willpower or physical external circumstance. Now you can have it as a desire, but not a goal. The difference, the desire you give up to God from day one and every day after. This is what I'm working toward. This is what I want, but I don't know if it's best, and I give that up to you, whether I get that or not. Okay? That is patience and turns the stress switch off and the positive love based on. You do not have the chemical rush. You only have the positive side of it, which, if addicting, is only addicting in a good way, that it would lead you to do more and more things you believe are right and true and love-based. Okay? It is not the inspiration that committing a crime comes from. It's the one that love comes from and helping others. And you are not settling ever. You are waiting long-term for the best possible outcome, even if it requires miraculous intervention by God, which I believe happens all the time. So your life is going to, after doing this for a few years and waiting for that long-term best outcome, you're going to be living over in the high country. +7 to +10 on a -10 to +10 scale. All right? And those people are few and far between, and those are the people, you're around them, you want to ask them, what have you been doing? Because you've got something I want. Well, a lot of times that thing is delayed gratification versus instant. Patience versus a wrong goal of instant gratification. So, which have you been living? How's that gone for you? And which do you want to live for the rest of your life? Making this one change, and I've seen it hundreds of times, could make a night and day difference in the rest of your life in every area. Choose patience. Choose delayed gratification. In a place where it's wise to take what this is now, because waiting would be a big 1 in a million gamble. That's a different situation, and maybe the loving best thing for you to take that. But in simply an instant versus delayed can be the difference in a great life and an okay life. Think about it this week. Have a wonderful, blessed day.